We'll start the part 2 of module 1. In the last part, we have seen the microprocessor, its operation, and we have seen an example for a microprocessor based system. In this part, we will be basically seeing the architecture of 8085 and its operation. We are going to see the architecture of 8085. So this is the architecture of 8085. So you are having the ALU. It is an 8-bit ALU which can be used to perform the operation on 8-bit datas. Associated with the ALU, we are having the accumulator, which is a register. It is again 8-bit. We are having a temporary register. We are having the flag register. It is actually 8-bit, but out of this 8-bit, you are using 5 bits. So the flag register is of size 5 bits. You are having the instruction register to which the instruction is being bought, and using the instruction decoder you are going to decode the instruction. And you are having a set of registers, the temporary register WZ. We are having the registers B, C, D, E, H and L. So these are the registers, and you are having the stack pointer, which basically points to the stack, the memory stack, and the program counter, which holds the address of the instruction that is being executed or that is going to be executed. And coming down, you can see the address buffer, the data and address buffer. So you will be seeing in detail. So each address buffer is of size 8 bits. And coming to the timing and control unit, the timing and control unit provides the necessary timing and control signals which synchronize all the operations and provide the necessary timing and control signals. So you are having the control signals, you are having the status signals, you are having the signals corresponding to the DMA operation, direct memory access operation, and the control signals which is being used to reset. Okay, and you are having the power supply pins, you are having the crystal input that is being used to generate the clock frequency x1 and x2. And at the top you can see you are having an interrupt controller. The interrupt pins, we'll see in detail what are those interrupt pins. And you are having SI, the serial input output control, which is being used to transfer data serially. And internally you are having a 8-bit internal bus. So this is about the entire architecture. Now we will concentrate more on to this architecture. So this is the architecture of 8085. 8085 is a 8-bit general purpose microprocessor, which means that it can handle or it can do the computations on 8-bit datas. So the data bus is of size 8 bits, and it is capable of addressing 64 kilo locations of memory. That means that the address bus is of size 16 bits. So the data bus is of size 8 bits. It can handle 8-bit datas, and the address bits is of size 16 bits. 8085 is a 40-pin microprocessor, and the supply voltage is 5 volt, and the clock frequency is taken as 3 megahertz. Now, as you have seen in the architecture consists of the address bus, and you can see that you are having the multiplexed address and data bus. We'll see what it means by multiplex address and data bus. We are seeing the control and status signals, and we are having the power supply and clock frequency. Externally initiated signals is the which is being externally initiated, and that includes the interrupt. Serial IO ports are the serial input and serial output. We are seeing the ALU, 8-bit ALU. You are having the timing and control unit, which provides the necessary synchronization and control signals. You are having the instruction register and decoder, where the instruction is being stored and decoded. and you are having a register array. Now you will see the hardware model of 8085. This is just a hardware model. So in this hardware model you can see you are having the accumulator, uh, you are having the ALU. Associated with the ALU you are having the flag registers. Flag register is there, and you are having the instruction decoder which is being used to decode the instruction. You are having the register arrays. You are having the memory pointer registers like the stack pointer and the program counter, and in the bottom you are having the timing and control unit. So you can see the address bus is of size 16-bit, the data bus is of size 8-bit, and you are having the control signal. So this is the hardware model of 8085. Coming to the programming model, where you need to know more about the registers. So you are having the register A, which is basically the accumulator, the flag register. The actual size is 8-bit, but you are using the 5 bits of it. So the flag register is of size 5 bits. We will see more detail about the flag registers. The other registers are B, C, D, E, H, L, and you are having the stack pointer, which is of size 16-bit, the program counter, which is of size 16-bit. Why? Because you are going to access a memory using 16 bits. Okay, 16-bit address. So that's why the stack pointer and program counter is of size 16 bits. Okay, and you can see you are having the address bus and the data bus. So the higher order address bus is A15 to A8, and the lower order address bus is A7 to A0. But the lower order address is also used for the data bus. It is being multiplexed and used. So instead of A7 to A0, you can represent it as AD7 to AD0, which is address as well as data. Now coming to the pin diagram, it is a 40 pin microprocessor. So coming from 1 to 40, we will start with the crystal values, then the reset, the serial input output, the interrupts AD0 to AD7. So that pin is being used as the lower address of the lower address or the data. That is why it is AD. And in the other side you can say that see that A8 to A15, which is the higher order address. And after that you are having a set of control signals, and the pin 40 is being used as a supply. So you can generally classify the signals as address bus, data bus, control and status signals. These are power supply and frequency signals, the externally initiated signals, serial output ports. So this is the general classification of signals. Altogether 40 pins are there, and these 40 pins is been divided into these 6 divisions. Now we will see the classification of the pins. So in the left side you can see the serial input output ports. You are having 2 pins for that, the pin number 4 and 5, the serial input as well as serial output. And the next set of signals are the externally initiated signals, and the signals starting with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the ready signal 35, hold 39, reset in 36. Those are the externally initiated signals. And the next set of signals are the external signal acknowledgements, the acknowledgements given by the microprocessor, the pin number 11 and 38. And in the bottom you can see the pin number 3 and 37, that is been the reset out and clock out, which is going as the output pins. And at the top you can see the crystal connection X1 and X2, the VCC and ground, pin number 40 and 20. In the right side you can see the higher order address bus. So the higher order address, the higher order 8 bits, A15 to A8 is being used for the higher order address, and the other pins starting from 12 to 19. So those pins, those 8 pins will be used for the address as well as the data. So you, as we have seen that the data is of size 8 bits and address is of size 16 bits. So the higher order address is A8 to A15, that is fixed, but the lower order address bus, this bus the multiplexed address and data bus, this bus will be either used as the address bus or as the data bus. So you are multiplexing and using the lower order address bus. So sometimes it will be used as the address bus and sometimes it will be used as the data bus. So you can reduce the number of pins. And the next set is the control and status signals. You are having ALE, which is known as the address latch enable, and you are having the status signals. You are having IO bar M bar, which is being used to identify whether you are going to perform a IO operation or a memory operation, the read write signals. So this is about the different classification of pins in 8085. Now coming to the control and status signals, you are having two control signals, RD bar and WR bar, which are active low signals, which means that in order to activate it, you need to give the value as 0. Okay, so you are having the read bar and write bar, which are the two control signals. You are having three status signals. Out of these three status signals, the first status signal is IO bar M bar, which that signal is being used to identify whether you are going to perform an input output operation or a memory operation. If that bit value is 0, means that you are going to perform a memory operation. If that bit value is 1, you are going to perform an IO operation. And using the two other signals, you will be performing the nature of operation S0 and S1. And you are having a special signal that is known as address latch enable. So that indicate the beginning of an operation. We will see more about this address latch enable. So coming to the definition of the control and status signal, you are having address latch enable, which is basically a positive going pulse that is generated every time 8085 begins the operation. So we are seeing the address bus, the multiplexed address bus starting from AD7 to AD0, which can be either used as the address bus or it can be used as the data bus. So the address bus A8 to A15 is being fixed for the higher order address, that is not multiplexed, but the lower order address bus is being multiplexed. So you can either use the lower order, that particular bus as a lower order address bus, or you can use it as a data bus. So if you are using that particular AD7 to AD0 as address bus, you will be utilizing it as A7 to A0, which means that that bus is now used as lower order address. Otherwise, it is being used as data bus, that is D7 to D0. Okay, so in order to differentiate that, whether you are using that bus as an address bus or you are using the bus as a data bus, you are using this particular signal. ALE indicates that if the ALU signal is active, whether it is high, it indicates that right now you are using that bus as an address bus, that is A7 to A0. If that signal goes low, it says that right now that bus is being utilized as the data bus. So ALE signal is used to differentiate or multiplex whether you are using that particular bus as the address bus or data bus. Now coming to the read signal, you are having RD bar. The read signal, control signal, is an active low signal, which means that in order to activate it, you need to make it as 0. Okay, so you can either read the data, the microprocessor can read the data from the IO device or from the memory location. The next control signal is your WR bar, the write bar. It is again an active low signal. So if you want to write something into if the processor want to write something into the memory location or the IO location, the signal should be active. You are going to give a 0 to this particular signal. Why? Because it is an active low signal, and whatever data is there in the database will be written into the selected memory location or the IO location. And coming to the next status signal is IO bar M bar. So that differentiates whether you're going to perform, the processor is performing an IO operation or a memory operation. So if that particular signal value is high, a 1, it means that you're going to perform an IO operation. If it is a low value, it indicates that you're going to perform a memory operation. Okay, so using the combination of these three signals and the other status signal, you are going to check, we are going to perform either as IO operation or a memory operation. and you are having two more status signals S1 and S0. We'll see in which all combinations it is being used. So let's see the different options of the control and status signal. Now in the machine cycle, if you want to perform an opcode fetch, in which you are going to fetch an instruction, an opcode from the memory. So since it is an memory operation, IO bar M bar signal will be 0. So suppose you are going to perform an memory operation, this particular signal IO bar M bar will be always 0. If you are going to perform an input operation, that particular signal will be always 1. Okay. Now you can see the combination of S1 and S0. The opcode fetch operation, you are going to fetch an instruction from the memory. In memory read also, you are going to fetch a data from the memory. Both are the memory read operation. And suppose you are going to fetch an opcode, and that opcode should be taken to the instruction register, and you are fetching a data from the memory. You are going to read the data from the memory. You should not take that data to the instruction decoder. So in order to differentiate that, whether you are going to do an opcode fetch or you are going to do a memory read, in both the cases you are reading from the memory, but the first case it is known as opcode fetch. So in order to differentiate that, you are using the status signal S1 and S0. If those values are 1 1, it means that, and the IO bar M bar signal is 0, which means that you're going to do an opcode fetch. So in that case, the data will be taken from the memory and it will be given to the instruction register. And if you're going to perform a memory read operation, S1 S0 values are 1 0, and if you are going to perform a memory write operation, those values are 0 1. So this is the combination used for memory read and memory write operation. Coming to the IO read and IO write operation, the first signal IO bar M bar signals will be taken as 1 1, and you are using the combination of S1 and S0. Okay, so in the right side you can see the corresponding control signals that has been generated. In the first case, RD bar 0 is 0. That is a control signal which is generated. Why? Because you are using an active low signal. So when RD bar 0 becomes 0, it means that you are going to perform a read operation. Okay, so the first two options are the memory read, memory write, and the fourth option is your read operation again, but you are going to perform an IO read, IO write. And suppose you are going to give an interrupt acknowledgement. Suppose the microprocessor is giving an interrupt acknowledgement. In that case, all the three values are taken as 1 1 1. In that case, the INTA bar signal will become 0. Okay, and you are having three more operations: halt, hold, and reset. In all the, if you want to generate these three conditions, the IO bar M bar signal is being taken as Z, which means that it is a high impedance state, and the corresponding S1 S0 values. That's how you generate the halt, hold, and reset signals. Now we will see the next classification of the pins or signals. You are having the interrupt and externally initiated signals. So INTR is an input signal and input pin which is known as interrupt request. So it is a general purpose interrupt. So that pin INTR is being used as interrupt request pin. You are having other interrupts, we'll see. INTA bar is an output signal which is an interrupt acknowledgement. So the microprocessor is acknowledging the corresponding device, saying that yeah, I have received an interrupt. So that particular pin is an output pin, and that is being used by the microprocessor to acknowledge the interrupt. And coming to next three pins, RST 7.5, 6.5 and 5.5, these are again interrupts. Those are vectored interrupts, which means that for these interrupts, the interrupt service routine has been written in a specific memory location, and these three pins are having their priority. The RST 7.5 is having the highest priority, and RST 5.5 is having the least priority. And you are having one more interrupt, it is known as trap. which is having the highest priority and which is a non-maskable interrupt. Hold is another hold is another externally initiated signal, which is an input signal. Hold is an externally initiated signal. uh, the purpose of this particular pin is that it is an input pin. So when the processor receives the signal through the input pin hold, it is something like the DMA will be requesting the processor to give the access of address and data bus. So the meaning of hold is that the DMA is giving a request to the processor saying that please give the address, the control of address and data bus for some duration of time. HLDA is the hold acknowledgement. So that is the acknowledgement given by the processor back to the DMA saying that yeah, now you can take the address and data bus for some duration of time. Ready is another input signal, an externally initiated signal. It says that suppose the microprocessor is being communicating with a slow device. Okay, now the processor is normally faster if that device is slower. That when the processor asks something, or whether it reads or writes something from that particular IO device, that IO device gives a signal back as ready signal. So the processor will wait for a certain amount of time until that particular device is ready. Okay, so when it gets the ready signal, it will continue the operation. Now coming to the next set of externally initiated signals, you are having reset in and reset out. So reset in means that you are going to reset the microprocessor. So it is an input signal, input pin. So it is an active low pin, which means that when you give a low value over there, the processor gets resetted and the program counter becomes 0. All the buses are made as tri-stated and the microprocessor is being resetted. Now after the microprocessor is being resetted, it makes the other devices to get reset. So it gives an reset out, which is an output pin. So the signal can be used by other devices to get reset. Coming to the serial input output ports. Okay, so in this case you are having two pins. One is serial input and the other one is serial data, serial output. So over here, in order to do the serial transmission, which means one bit of data is transmitted over the line at a time. So you will be using the serial input or serial output based on your requirement. Coming to the power supply and clock frequency, you have seen the VCC and VSS pins, which is being used as the supply as well as the ground reference. X1 and X2 is being used to connect the crystal that is being used to generate the clock frequency. So since the clock gets internally divided by 2 and you want to have an operating frequency of 3 megahertz, the crystal should have a frequency of 6 megahertz. And clock out is an output pin. Clock output is an output pin that is being given by the microprocessor to the other devices. It will be providing the system clock from this particular pin. And coming to the registers, it is having 6 general purpose registers, and each register can hold a 8-bit data, and the 6 registers are B, C, D, E, H and L. And if you are going to perform a 16-bit operation, in that case you can use the combination or the pair of registers BC combined together, DE combined together, HL combined together, can act as 16, can be used for 16-bit operation. And accumulator, which is the register which is a part of the ALU, and this register is also known as register A, which is of size 8 bits, and this register is being used to store 8-bit data and to perform an arithmetic or logical operation. So the result of the ALU operation, the result will be stored in the accumulator. So the ALU It comprises of an accumulator, a temporary register, arithmetic and logic unit, and 5 uh, flags. Okay, now you can see the flag positions. It is actually D0 to D7. Out of this 8 bits, you are utilizing the 5 bits. Now you will see in detail what are the flag bits. So S stands for the sign flag, the 0 flag, the auxiliary carry flag, the parity flag, and carry. So coming to the 0 flag, and that particular flag is set if the ALU operation result is 0, and that flag is reset if the result is not 0. Okay, so that flag becomes 1 if the ALU operation result is a 0. So by checking the accumulator value, this flag will be either set or reset. The next flag is the auxiliary carry flag. So when you are performing an operation like binary coded decimal BCD operation, in that case, when you perform a BCD operation, you are using the first 4 bits, D0 to D3, and if a carry is generated in that particular addition, so that carrier, if it is being propagated from D3 to D4. So in special cases like binary coded decimal operation, if that carry is generated, carry is being propagated from D3 to D4, in that case the auxiliary carry flag will be set. Coming to the next kind of flag is the parity flag. In parity flag, if the result you are having even number of ones when you perform an arithmetic logical operation, and after the operation, if the inside the result, if it has even number of 1, that particular flag will be parity flag will be set. If in the result, if it is having odd number of ones, this flag will be reset, means that it will be taken as 0. The next flag is the carry flag. And you're performing an arithmetic operation, if a carry is generated, in that case the carry flag will be set. So this carry flag can also be known as borrow flag when you're performing a subtraction. The timing and control unit. So as we have seen earlier, this timing and control signal provides the necessary synchronization and control signals for the communication between the microprocessor and the peripherals. Okay, so we are seeing the different control and control signals as well as the status signals that is being generated by the timing and control unit, and the instruction register and decoder. So this is a part of ALU. So when the instruction is being fetched from the memory, the instruction is being loaded into the instruction register. Now this from the instruction register, the instruction decoder will decode the instruction and it will decide which all operations has to be done. Okay, and this particular instruction register cannot be programmed and it cannot be accessed by through any other instructions. So this is the diagram which we have seen earlier in the initial part of the slide of the presentation. Now coming to the 8085 operation. So this is the operations. So the program or the data that is being stored in the read-write memory or the RAM, and the if it is a program, the instructions are stored sequentially. Okay, now this is how the microprocessor starts the operation. The microprocessor is given a signal or a command signal to execute the program. So when the microprocessor is being given with a command signal to start the execution, the microprocessor fetches the first instruction from the memory. It takes that instruction, it will be brought to the instruction register, it will be decoded and it will perform it. So this fetch, decode, execute process will continue until the microprocessor gets a stop instruction. Okay, so you can see that in the fetch, decode, execution process, the microprocessor will be using the system bus to fetch the instruction and data from the memory. The microprocessor uses the registers to store the data temporarily. ALU is the part which performs the operations, whether the arithmetic or logic operations. Now after the operation, the result will be sent to the output peripheral or to the memory through the system bus. So coming to the classification of operations, there are three general categories. The first one is the microprocessor initiated operation, the internal operations, the peripheral or externally initiated operations. In the next class, in the next part, we will be seeing the microprocessor initiated operations, we will be concentrating more on the microprocessor initiated operations, and we will also see the bus structure of 8085. Thank you.